different castles around the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Welcome! Lori is the apple of my eye, my twin sister so dear, and I'm Tobias, the sibling who holds history's atmosphere. From Stoke Newington, London, we initiate our itinerary to review every fortress, from the abysmal to the exemplary. We're ecstatic to guide you through time on this energetic quest, initially starting where the Norman conquerors did rest. Don your crowns and your capes, for our trip is official, though these princess and prince clothes are purely superficial. In 1066, things deteriorated fast across the shore, as the Norman conquest made Saxon power a thing of the past and no more. With William the Conqueror, a new era was currently born, leaving the former rulers feeling quite crestfallen and forlorn. To maintain their control, they built moats on a hill where a wooden tower stood, demonstrating their iron will. The former world was banished, a new one was in place, as these alien structures altered the island's face. But wood is a variable prone to rot and decay, and if accidentally ignited, it would smolder away. It's not surprising the Normans felt rather irate when fire would sabotage their rudimentary gate. To have walls made of timber was a big mistake, as the peril of burning put their whole lives at stake. With the scent of smoke rising, they had to reconsider, for a flammable fortress made the defenders feel bitter. The bailey was the yard where the servants would stay, unless things went pear-shaped and they had to run away. It was a cacophony of chickens, horses, and men, a noisy circumstance again and again. The bailey was guarded by a ditch and a wall, but to be caught red-handed there was the direst fall. If the enemy intervened and broke through the gate, the people retreated to the motte to escape their fate. At Windsor and Carisbrooke, the mottes still remain, albeit transformed to withstand the wind and the rain. Windsor was a stronghold on the verge of the wood, where the king's reputation was well understood. At Carisbrooke, the donkey turns the wheel for the well, a tedious task with a story to tell. These mottes were the initial seeds of the crown, before stone keeps were built to overlook the town. Consequently, the builders made a U-turn in style, using stone to ensure their walls lasted a while. The White Tower in London is a distinguished sight, built by William to show off his superior might. The Tower of London was an eyesore to those who were local, whose protest and fury were exceptionally vocal. But to ignore such a fortress would be sheer incompetence, for stone offered strength and a permanent confidence. Inside the great keep, life was far from a dream. It was a lackluster existence, or so it would seem. The monotony of stone made the atmosphere dismal. With lighting so poor, it was truly abysmal. The lack of a fireplace would reduce one to tears, as they shivered in shadows for hundreds of years. They would retain their warmth by a fire's red glow, while the wind wailed a cacophonous song of woe. Rochester and Hedingham had keeps that were tall. The sight of their height would essentially appall. With walls 20 feet thick, they were hard to mar. Under no circumstances could you leave them ajar. But the smell was atrocious, let alone the damp, lit by the scent of a foul oil lamp. The latrines were just holes that dropped to the ground, where a horrendous stench was all that was found. King Edward I had a plan quite relentless, to build an iron ring and leave Wales defenseless. He proposed a new design that was second to none, where the battle for power was virtually won. Concentric ring castles were like walls within walls, a maze of defenses and high vaulted halls. The outer wall was lower than the inner, of course, to double the fire of the defending force. Beaumaris is the ultimate, symmetrical dream. Albeit unfinished, it was a masterclass scheme. But building such giants put the crown in jeopardy, as the cost escalated with no sign of remedy. The budget was severed, the work had to cease, as the treasury's wealth did significantly decrease. It stands as a ruin, a thing of the past, a majestic error that was built to last. At Caerphilly, the water was used as a shield, forcing the hostile attackers to yield. A moat is an obstacle that few can evade, a watery trap that the engineers made. But beware of the tower that leans to the side, where gravity's law is accidentally defied. It's like chalk and cheese when compared to the rest, a precarious tower that has withstood the test. As centuries passed, the need for war started to wane, and kings longed for luxury rather than pain. Linlithgow Palace was a Scottish retreat where the gardens were lush and the air was quite sweet. It was not only a castle, but also a home, with spacious great halls and a decorative dome. The military purpose was now quite redundant, as comfort and beauty became more abundant. At Hampton Court, the Tudors did dwell in a palace of brick that we know very well. The kitchens were energetic, a scene of anarchy, cooking a ton of red meat for the hierarchy. To top it off, the Great Hall was grand, the finest example in all of the land. It's out of this world, with its carvings so fine, where the king and his court would enthusiastically dine. Up north by the sea, Carrickfergus stands tall, with a rocky foundation that won't ever fall. In Northern Ireland, it's a notorious site where the Normans demonstrated their maritime might. But life by the coast was a dire circumstance, where the salt and the spray would incessantly dance. The wind would infuriate and the cold would incense, making the cost of the upkeep truly immense. Stirling Castle is perched on a volcanic crag, where the kings of the Scots would unfurl their flag. It's a superior fortress, a thing of the future, mending the land like a giant stone suture. To attack such a place was a dilemma indeed, for the attackers would struggle and fail to succeed. With a view that is second to none in the north, as the energetic soldiers went valiantly forth. In the Victorian era, some castles were changed, as fairy tale visions were neatly arranged. Castell Coach is a red castle of wonder, built over ruins that history pulled under. It looks like a dream, with its conical peaks, where the spirit of romance continuously speaks. It's reminiscent of stories and legends of old, adorned with bright colors and glimmers of gold. Some might object to these fake ancient walls, but the beauty of ruins is what truly enthralls. Whether a palace or keep, they are precious to see, a tangible part of our long history. Under no circumstances should they be overlooked, for the lessons they teach are not only in books. They are the antithesis of our modern day, where the ghosts of the past still continue to play. But don't be misled by the romanticized view, for the reality was harsh for the likes of me and you. The stench of the drains was a constant outrage, a dismal reality of that middle age. It was bad enough being cold and quite damp without having to live like a permanent tramp. The light at the end of the tunnel was dim, as life in a castle was essentially grim. Now our tour is concluding, we must recap our trip before our itinerary gives us the slip. We've seen moats and baileys and rings made of stone, and palaces where the great monarchs have grown. Reiterate the facts, assess what you know, from the high mountain peak to the valley below. It's been the time of our lives, to say the very least, from the direst of dungeons to the grandest of feast. Alas, our journey must finally cease as we return to Stoke Newington in quiet and peace. Fortunately, history is always right there, in the ruins and castles and the salt in the air. Furthermore, remember, if you visit a keep, to look for the secrets that the old walls still sleep. Thanks for collaborating on this quest for the truth, from the Sterling twins in the prime of their youth.